What's up, guys? I hope you're all feeling good today. So, the topic of this video comes directly from a conversation that I had today with a guy I work with, and I thought I would follow up and ask you guys what your experience is with this, or if you have any input on this. I just thought it was interesting because I was talking to this guy and I mentioned the fact that I lived in like one of the nearby towns, like a smaller town, right? I think the population of my town that I live in is like 3 or 4 thousand, which is not very much, I don't think it's very much. So I just brought up that I've lived in this town my whole life and how, there's like only one stoplight in the town. If you're driving through, you're in and you're out in like a second. We hardly have any, we don't have like any fast food places. I think the only thing we have is a Subway connected to a gas station, right? And anyway, the point is, like, I live in a small town, right? And it's a very like a rural area, right? Surrounded by a lot of farmers and like just people that have a lot of land to live on, you know. And it's just one of these things where the guy that I was talking to, he just kind of mentioned like, oh yeah, I've heard of that, or he said that he's visited there before where I live, in the town that I live in, because I guess he had a friend or whatever. But he's from more of like the city area. I guess originally he was from like Chicago, and then he moved to Michigan. But the point is that there's like a difference between like city living and country living. And I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts are on the differences. First of all, are you from a small town, or are you from a bigger city? Uh, have you ever, maybe do you have a unique experience of having experiences with both, and maybe you can share your thoughts on it? I've only ever lived in the place that I live now. It's a small town, again, very rural. And to be honest with you, the conversation that I had with this guy was mostly centered on the fact that he was black, and that when he came here there was like no black people. And it's true. I told him, like, growing up, like, there was maybe like 5 black kids in my school that I can think of, right? uh and like there's hardly any black families that live around here. And he just mentioned, of course the cops kind of got brought up, and he mentioned, how he got pulled over and how the cops were like, they were nice to him or whatever. And he brought up like the people in the small town were nicer. He brought up the fact that he went to some party, and it was in some barn or some pole barn or something, and he thought it was like, I don't know. He just brought up like the differences of like the types of people and the types of like environments, especially for partying. And he brought up all this stuff, and I just found it really interesting, his perspective coming from where he lives. And he also mentioned like where his neighborhood that he lives in is just all black people or all Latino people, and like hardly any white people, right? And where I grew up in this small town, rural area, it's all like no black people, basically. Hardly anything. And so that was basically the conversation that I had today. And I'm just curious for you guys. Do you guys have anything that you find unique about living in either a small town or a large city? I know some countries, I mean, are densely populated, so there's not like a ton of necessarily like countryside or rural areas, and obviously most people probably live in more denser areas in cities or whatnot. Can you shed some light on what is it like living in a city, that maybe something like obviously you have more things to do, and if you live in a city, there's more, more restaurants, more easy, you go somewhere, events, you have like you're closer to venues where people might have like where musicians or bands or something might come in and play, or closer to venues for other events, I guess. I don't know. The thing about living in a small town, though, you pretty much know everybody. You go to the store, local grocery store. Hey, I know him. Hey, I know her. Hey, I know like everybody in the store right now. And that's basically that's one of the things about living in a small town. Um definitely the property. You know, you have a lot more land in a rural area if you live out in the countryside or something. I mean, yeah, I mean, you can do a lot of extra stuff. Living in the city, what? I don't know. Crime, more crime. I think we brought up crime. He asked if there was a lot of crime. I was like, no, there's like hardly any crime. Like you hardly ever hear about, He's like, so no, there's no robberies or like, you know, I'm like, no, like we don't have gas stations. First of all, there's only like two gas stations or three gas stations. Like no, they don't get robbed. And I was like, why do people? Is there a lot of like crime and like robberies and stuff around where you live? And he's like, yeah, like all the time. And I'm like, really? So it was just kind of weird. I mean, I don't live in that urban city environment. I don't know what it's like. I've always lived in a small town. So anyway, that's my thoughts for the day. I could probably talk about this a little bit more, but I don't really have a lot to say about this. I'm just interested to hear if you guys have anything to say, and I appreciate you guys sharing. If you want to share, I appreciate you know participating with these types of conversations. So that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.